Well, this story is close to home. This blind man that we're about to read about just won a case with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario over a job that he did not get after being told that he did get it. And it took 7 years for this case to be heard and gone through and resolved. And I'm going over this because I have a very similar story to this gentleman. And it's very upsetting to know that even a good 7 years after my experience that this was still happening, and probably still is happening another 7 years further on down the road. This article is all over the place, but I am using the CBC version, and I will post it in the description of the video. But I am going to read it to you with the help of my braille display. So please, bear with me. So let's see here. In August 2017, St. Catharines resident Eric Berggroff made it through 2 interviews and a month-long wait before hearing back on a sales associate position at a Welland, Ontario call center. So this is awesome because a lot of times, and I don't know, this article doesn't say what level of blind Mr. Berggroff was, but a lot of blind people don't even make it that far. A lot of times when I was applying for jobs, the very first question I got was, "How did you get here?" In a most flabbergasted and impressed voice that, oh my God, this blind person was able to not only leave their house, but get to the right place. It's very disheartening to be asked questions like that when you are showing up for a job. So this guy probably felt great after going through both interviews, and then that month-long wait was probably like, oh, I bet you I didn't get the job, And then they called him back, and he was probably over the moon. And we'll soon learn that was far too premature. When the call finally came in, Berggroff told CBC News he felt, quote, fatalistic after hearing he didn't get the job despite Convergs, the company he applied to, saying, quote, he was a qualified candidate, end quote. Now, this exact thing happened to me with a call center that is no longer even in existence. They were an Xbox call center, and I applied to be a sales person or a call center person, and I went through both interviews, and they were like, I explained to them, how I could use a computer, and they were like, okay, well, we'll, fit the bill, right? We will call you on Monday so you can start training. We're just going to reach out to our tech people and see if they're because usually there wasn't assigned desks with assigned stations. It was just, when you show up, you get a desk, right? And they were like, well, we'll see if we can find a spot that we can put a version of JAWS on a computer, and that'll just be your spot. We'll talk to IT. Okay, great. Never got the call back. Finally called them. They're like, oh yeah, well, we spoke to IT, and they said that we can't accommodate. Well, Pink Hollow had a friend that worked in the IT department. So he was like, hey, did anybody come down and talk to anybody in the department about putting a screen reader on a computer upstairs for a blind associate? He goes, no, that would have been absolutely no problem. But nobody came down to talk to us about it, but it wouldn't have been an issue. So they not only lied to me and told me that the tech people said no, but they didn't even ask. And had they asked, they would have been told, oh yeah, it's no issue. Because magically, down in the States, there are a lot more employed blind people. Like, especially during COVID, the amount of people that I used to talk to on, like, those audio apps, like Clubhouse and shit, that had remote work jobs from home, that they were working through call centers, and they got them the jobs through, like, the Lighthouse Center for the Blind, or the Carroll Center for the Blind, or, like, the NFB, or the American Council for the Blind. Like, it's ridiculous. But up here, for some reason, especially if you're total, you can just shut up and you can just deal with it, right? That's just how it is. So it's insane. It's really, really disheartening. So this says, going on to say here, sorry, the page jumped here. So, I probably applied to 30 to 40 call center jobs and been denied by at least a dozen different companies, and I've never been able to land a job, said Berggroff, who graduated with 2 diplomas in computer hardware and programming analysis. If I wanted an IT job, I'd have to start at an entry-level position. That's true, because a blind person can have 8,000 degrees in, like, a blind person could fucking somehow figure out how to get themselves an astrophysics degree, and they'd still be thrown to the bottom pile of whatever job they were applying to. I had a piano teacher who was completely, totally blind from birth, and the only way that she was able to establish herself as a good, solid piano teacher was to do it privately, like pay a school to rent out a studio space and teach privately and get paid through the school. There was no way that she was going to go and be able to teach at, like, an institution or something, unless she wanted to go work at the school for the blind, which she didn't, right? But she was able, like, and that's in music. Like, if you aren't musically inclined, and that's a huge freaking misnomer and misconception. Oh, all blind people are musicians. No, there are plenty of blind people who are not musically talented, and a lot of them, like this dude, he tried, he has a job or a degree in computers and computer hardware, but he would basically be shoved down to the bottom of the totem pole because of his vision, no other reason. In 2018, Berggroff filed a human rights complaint, good for him, against Convergs, and now acquired by Concentrix. But to wait for a decision from the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, or the HRTO, came to an end on October 17th, 2025, 7 years later, and after he landed a job elsewhere. I mean, good for this guy for being able to land a job. I mean, that's great. A lot of us wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I I gave up because hearing the, oh yes, we could, make a spot for you, and then, oh no, never mind, over and over again, it was very hard and disheartening. The tribunal ordered the company to pay $20,000 for injury to dignity, feelings, and self-respect, as well as $8,472 for lost wages. I'm sorry, but that's fucking pitiful. That's pitiful. I'm not one for frivolous lawsuits and insane amount of damages, but $20,000 for loss of dignity when you are trying to provide for yourself and your family, and you are basically led by the bullhorn to believe that you will get this job, and then told, oh nope, never mind, sorry. That's $20,000 is not enough, and it doesn't teach the company a lesson. And $8,000 for lost wages? That's not even close to minimum wage, even back in 2017, 2018. You divide $8,472 by 12? That's not even $800 a month. Because 8 times 12 is 96, right? So that's barely over $7,000 or $700 a month in lost wages, which you break that down to weekly. That's barely minimum wage. That's pathetic. I'm sorry. That just enforces companies to think, oh, well, we can just pay disabled people less. You know what I mean? Like, that is... The Human Rights Tribunal should be ashamed for that decision of damages. That's way too low. The company was also ordered to develop accommodating hiring policies and accessible interview process for blind candidates. Yes, and you know what they're going to do? Do you know what they're going to do to get around these loopholes? They're going to make sure that they interview people that have some sort of usable vision. They are going to make sure that they hire people that need only large print. They are going to make sure that they go and hire legally blind people, that make sure that they require as little accommodation as possible. That is how these companies are going to get around it. And the 10% of blind people like me are stuck over here, and we're about to hear something in this article that's incredibly wrong and misleading. So let's go. In the decision, the tribunal member Ramona Ganathana? Wow, that's a long name. Ramona Ganathana wrote the company, quote, failed in their procedural duty, to accommodate when they did not explore any further accommodation solutions with the applicant. So this is true. A lot of times a company will refuse to work with the applicant to understand how they can accommodate, and it's usually very easy how they can accommodate, and pretty cheap in the long run for a company, but they don't want to figure it out. CBC News reached out to Concentrix for comment, but did not receive a response by publication time. So this carries on to say, with a resume that listed experience in training and testing experience accessibility programs for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, which is a pretty good basis for reference. Berghoff said the company, quote, made no attempts to include him in any discussions related to his accommodations whatsoever. So they just probably went to their tech department and, it even says, according to the decision, an IT operations employee at Convergys claimed to have tested trial versions of free screen readers, software that reads on-screen information through speech or refreshable braille displays, which I have right here. So it then says, the employee concluded that they non-adequately worked nor was interactive with their customer relationship management software, and they also claimed the position required a user being able to independently navigate AT&T's proprietary software, their sole client. See, that's another thing that I got told by a different call center company. We can't hire you because we can't install JAWS on our computers because we work with US-based clients and that would void their security protocols. And I'm like, well, JAWS is created by a US company, so I'm not entirely sure what the hell you're trying to talk about. Berghoff said the company did the most basic investigation to prove their preconception that I couldn't be placed in the job. Which is true. It's very true. Because that's what they don't want to hire a disabled person and have to accommodate them. It's too much work. A 2022 Statistics Canada report found that 6.9% of Canada's working-age population with disabilities were unemployed. That's almost double the unemployment rate of those without disabilities. However, many blind people go on to have successful careers in fields including video game streaming, cosmetics, or law, among others. So Molly Burke, Daredevil, and there is not one successful solely video. I do not know one blind person that successfully only streams video games. Nobody. All of the people, including people like Blind Warrior Swen, who won Evo for Street Fighter last year, has a job! Because they live in places that have way better access for blind people. Because I'm sorry, this country fucking sucks for it. And then, on top of that, a lot of them still have some vision. And then on top of that, they, like, the beauty people and everything, they're not just constantly, like, they have sponsors, they have, modeling opportunity, they're not just, like, oh my god, what the fuck, CBC? And law, what well-known blind lawyer are we speaking of? What successful, there's nobody right now that is making waves as a blind attorney. Like, there's nobody in Canada that, what is there a Supreme Court justice that I don't know about that's blind? Many blind people. Even Molly has her books and her speaking tours and her, like, she gets fees to go and speak for people. Like, she's not just an internet person. Like, what blind person successful? Even Lucy Edwards. Yes, she's a content creator, but she has, like, other stuff that she does with the RNIB and the BBC. And holy crap, what kind of lie is this? It's okay, blind people. You can just be a content creator and you'll be fine. Fuck off. That's a lie. Especially if you have blind in your name. Especially if you have, you know, other things going on, like, oh, I don't know, children who you have to, you know, school through a thing called COVID because you don't want to be like that mother that was featured on Explore With Us that let her children starve to death because she was fucking streaming. But yeah, you go ahead and you tell blind people that they can have a successful job at video game stream. Dude, not even sighted people, not even the majority of sighted people are successful at video game streaming. Do you think everybody can be fucking Asmongold? What the shit? What the absolute fuck are you talking about? Holy crap. First I was mad at the Human Rights Tribunal, now I'm mad at this article. 'Cause that's just absolute garbage. That's just absolute fucking garbage. Because even the people like Ability Mom or whatever, who is still pretty small, and her husband works. Lucy Edwards' husband works. He can see. Blind surfer Pete Gustin has his money that he got from voice acting before he completely lost his sight. What are you all talking about? There is no... Oh, okay, I need to stop. I need to stop before I crash out. I will post the article. In the description. What do you think about the damages this man got? I think it's too small. Again, I'm not for insane damages that are inflammatory, but I think this was underdone, and a large company can well afford to just write a check for $28,000 and not do anything to change. I'm sorry. I think this is far too lenient of the Human Rights Tribunal, and I think the reason that they did this is because they are incredibly backlogged and they know they have to rule in this gentleman's favor, but they don't have the time to dig into the amount of damages that he is owed, and so they just did a quick ruling and now they've moved on to something else. So that's my take. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.